When we wrapped the portion that we were doing with Mel Gibson, he volunteered to be on my crew and hang out with us, and I jokingly said, well, I want you to carry the tripod and I want you to be our slate man. And he said absolutely. And I never saw a star of that stature with less ego. He literally grabbed the tripod and followed us around, and he would hold the slate and he would do the slate, the clapboard. And so I enjoyed him very much.
Yeah, right.
Mel Gibson's the real deal.
Yeah. Well, he probably was going to school on all these films, taking, you know, notes. And
you know, when he was following us around carrying that tripod, he made that statement to me. He said, I want to watch everything you do. And I know that he did that with every single director that he worked with. I just know it. I wasn't there, but he had one of the executives at the first television station I worked for, he said, you're the first employee we've had in a long time who has what he called a nagging interest. I was just there 24/7. I couldn't get enough of it. And I noticed Mel Gibson was like that when it came to directing. He wanted to learn something from everybody. And when he won his Oscar for Braveheart, he said, I learned something from all you directors, and you know who you are. And my wife turned to me and said, I wonder if you're one of them. And I said,
oh, I'm sure it is.
I was early on. That was early on, though. That was just before he... I mean, we would walk around Toronto and people would sort of sheepishly take me aside and say, is that the Road Warrior? And so he wasn't that well known.
Yeah. Well, you've also obviously learned from some of these great people because you yourself were a great producer and director and writer. Tell me who you learned from. Woody Allen, Spielberg, I mean, what did you take away from working with some of these greats?
Alan Parker was unbelievable. Just watching him work, I mean, he was quiet, and he would rarely say anything, and he had his same film crew with him, like Clint Eastwood.
That's great.
Clint Eastwood made, over a 30-year period, Jack Green started out as his camera operator and then became his director of photography and was nominated for Unforgiven, and that's who I work with now is Jack Green. So I learned a lot from Jack Green. I learned a lot from the directors who keep the same crew. Alan Parker was in such dead sync with his crew that I would watch him on the Midnight Express set and he would just go,
that's wonderful.
And they would do it.
Yeah, the shortcuts. They have a relationship.
I don't even know. It was a sign language they had between them. And I'm sure Clint Eastwood had that with Jack Green. But Jack Green is, I think the top 3 DPs in the motion picture industry would be Caleb Deschanel. That's who Mel Gibson used. Jack Green for sure. And I don't know, there's 3 or 4 others, I suppose, who would qualify, but I think Jack's right up there at the top.
Yeah.
And he shot the trailer on the Teresa picture, which is really one scene from the film. And I love working with him, learn a lot from Jack.
Which is an amazing trailer. It's an amazing trailer. We're gonna get there because we're gonna tease these people.
Sure, absolutely.
That's just amazing. I want to talk about that.
All right.
But we're almost there. So now
you need to be in my next film. Look at you. You need to.
You've done. You said over 30 making of, right?
40.
40.
Over 40.
Over 10 years. So now, when did you decide to start doing your own movies?
You know, you just sort of run out of gas, you know. It's just, I don't want to do these anymore. I've been doing them for over a decade. And then we started doing documentaries. And I did a documentary that was on the Discovery Channel on heart disease with Walter Matthau and Brooke Shields. And I loved that whole experience. And then Discovery and the History Channel and all of those, which I love, started doing their own product in-house. And so, I don't want to go back and do behind the scenes. We've been there, done that so many times. It was a wonderful experience, but that's a chapter in our lives that is now behind us. And I say we, meaning my crew. We've all been together for a long time. And documentaries I adored doing, and I did a number of those.
One on alcoholism with Suzanne Summers. I mean, just amazing. You tackled amazing subjects.
The hazards of smoking.
Smoking. Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields.
Film, even though you've had all this experience, was it difficult? Did you learn a lot doing it for the first time, that you applied the second one and the next one after that?
No, I don't know anything, you know. Every single time we do a film, we realize how much we don't know. So we bring in as many people as we possibly can who know what they're doing. This is why I love I've got people who've won Oscars who are working on my team now, and I learned something from each one of them.
the trailer, which we get to see in just a moment, is you had the best team. Tell me about your makeup artist, the DP. You had, and you also shot it in Palos Verdes. It looks just like India.
Right.
Tell me about the extra story. I mean, they're inspiring. You met people who knew Mother Teresa. I mean, it's such an inspiring story.
What we did was, first the director of photography is Jack Green, and I love working with him, and so I knew it would be awesome in terms of cinematography. And Jack won, or is nominated for an Academy Award for Unforgiven, and he shoots major pictures like Twister and Girl Interrupted, and the films that he makes quite often seem to wind up winning Academy Awards. So we're very lucky to have him. Kevin Haney and Rick Baker, I think arguably would be the two best in the motion picture business. I mean, Kevin Haney created Mini-Me for Mike Myers for the Austin Powers films, and he won his first Oscar for Driving Miss Daisy. He aged Dan Aykroyd over a...
Yeah, he's the makeup artist.
He's the makeup artist.
And very famous.
Prosthetics makeup artist. I think Kevin's the best for the recreation of historical characters and making them look exactly like. So I had Kevin. I brought in Kevin to do the work on the trailer.
He's great. And let's talk about who did the voiceover. And it was his last job, I believe.
Yeah.
That
was, my wife came up with that idea. I wanted Richard Harris in the film, and I've always been a Richard Harris fan, and we had met him at a party a number of years ago at on a post-Oscar party, and he had been nominated for The Field, Best Actor. And so my wife and I spent a good part of an evening just visiting with Richard Harris during that party. And I thought, you know, let's cast him in this film as the aging elder statesman priest who was Mother Teresa's lifelong friend, who eulogized at her funeral. So he was up for that. And he was doing the second Harry Potter in London at the time. And I asked him if he would also narrate the trailer, because he had this only Richard Harris, you know, what a voice.
That voice.
And he asked me if I would come to London to supervise that, and I said it's unnecessary, we can do this by phone. And he was an actor who didn't like it if the director wasn't there. So I said, okay, I'll come out in the morning. So I went to London, checked into a hotel, and then hired a driver and picked him up at the Savoy, where he maintained an apartment. Off we went to the 4MC Studios in London, and we recorded it. And Richard Harris turned to me and asked me, now, how do you want me to do this? And I said, well, let's lay one down. And then if I want to adjust it, I'll adjust it. But I would rather, I think the best direction is to not say anything. And with a mega pro of this stature, he's probably going to nail it the first time, and he did. And the moment, and I'll never forget it, he sat there with the mic, and he got close to the mic, and he said, at one time, with that Richard Harris voice, and you get goosebumps.
Chills, yeah. I was gonna
and also, a little sidebar on that, afterward he said, I'll buy you a lager. So we got in the back of this car, and off we went to a pub, and we're sitting in the back of this pub, and this American, this lady from Texas, came over, and she said, my husband and I are trying to figure out who you are. Now, you're that actor, right? And he said, I don't know. Who am I? And she said, but you're that actor. What is your name? And he said, Madam, my name is Peter O'Toole. And she said, I knew it, and she walked away.
That's very funny. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was great having you on the show.
Always good to see you, Ann.
Always good to see you, too. And thank you for watching.